The series begins with a young woman named Karika entering the large building of Dragon Bank. Karika is the daughter of the company's president, and today, she is there to interview new recruits. At the same time, a young man named Manabu is nervously practicing his interview in front of the bathroom mirror. Manabu has dreamed of working at Dragon Bank since he was a child, and now he finally has the chance. However, Manabu is shy and struggles with talking to people. During his interview, he makes several mistakes and can't speak clearly in front of the recruitment committee. Even though Manabu is socially awkward, he has amazing computer skills. He's discovered weaknesses in Dragon Bank's system that he could use to hack the company. Karika notices his talent and decides to give him a chance. But to keep the job, Manabu still has to go through training, where he could lose his spot if he doesn't perform well. After Manabu leaves, another applicant named Haru comes in for his interview. Haru is much more confident and has great communication skills. His smooth talking impresses Karika, and she decides to choose him as well. Outside the building, Manabu tries to buy a drink from a vending machine, but his bill slips out of his hand and flies away. Soon after, he runs after it, but Haru suddenly appears and jumps to catch the bill. Haru recognizes Manabu as his old school friend. They first met a long time ago when some bullies were picking on Manabu for money. Haru stepped in and fought the bullies, but the fight was caught on a street camera. Worried he might get in trouble at school, Haru was scared. However, Manabu used his computer skills to hack the camera system and delete the footage. That's how their friendship started. Now, Haru tells Manabu that he has always been able to get a job after graduating, and he's changed jobs many times. He's now working at Dragon Bank. On the other hand, Manabu has been unlucky and still hasn't gotten a job. A few days later, while Manabu is working as a window cleaner at the Dragon Bank building, Haru comes by and tells him that he quit his job. Haru explains that he wants to start his own company and needs Manabu's help. Haru is good at talking and convincing people, but he needs someone with technical skills like Manabu. Haru explains his business idea and asks Manabu to join him. So, the name of their new company is Trillion Game, and they dream of making trillions of dollars from it. Their office is actually just their small apartment. One day, Haru shows up with a brand new chair. He spent all his savings to buy it, so Manabu could sit comfortably and work hard for their company. After that, they put together a rough plan for their business and went to the bank and some investors to ask for money. But no one wanted to give them any money. They were too new to the business world, had no experience, and their plan wasn't detailed enough. Finally, they went to Karika with their proposal, hoping she would help. Karika was very smart and didn't fall for their tricks easily. At the time, Karika was playing pool, and Haru made a bet with her. He said he could sink all the balls in one shot with his eyes closed. If he succeeded, he wanted her to invest in their company. Hearing that, Karika agreed and let him try. Soon after, Haru covered his eyes with a tie, took the shot, and luckily, all the balls went in. Karika was impressed and decided to give them the money to start their company. However, Karika had conditions. She wanted 5% of their company in exchange for investing 100 million yen. Haru didn't like that idea because it would mean they would always have to work under Karika. So, they turned down the offer and left. After that, they went to a party to celebrate the deal they almost got but didn't close. While they were there, they heard about a hacker tournament that was going to take place at Dragon Bank. Soon after, Haru quickly signed them up as a team using Manabu's picture. He even used Karika's offer as their team name in the tournament. On the day of the tournament, Manabu had to compete alone against hundreds of hackers to become one of the top 12. He worked hard, solving problems and earning points, but he was slower than the other teams who had more members. Then Haru showed up on a video call with a bunch of people. They were all beginner hackers, but they were enough to help Manabu finish this round. Turns out, the tournament lasted for 12 hours, and Manabu worked through the night with these rookies to make it into the top 12. In the morning, Manabu went to the roof to tell Haru that they made it. They celebrated their victory on the rooftop, excited for the next round. When the final day came, Manabu once again had to face other teams, but this time each team had 4 or 5 hackers. Dragon Bank even sent its own team to compete. At that time, Haru showed up dressed like a monk, carrying a strange object, pretending to pray to the gods for their victory, because they really needed the prize money to start their company. Before the match starts, Haru tells Manabu to connect the router exactly 1 minute after the match begins. Once the match starts, Haru heads to the stage and starts swinging a strange object in the air. The object is actually made of silicon strips, and Haru uses it to mess with the router signal, making it hard for the other teams to connect. All the teams struggle to connect to the router. After 1 minute, Haru signals Manabu to connect. Meanwhile, the event organizers notice what Haru is doing and stop him. Even though Manabu had an early advantage by connecting first, he starts losing points as the other teams are stronger and quickly take over. That's when Haru reveals his trick. He had placed another router near the stage earlier, and when he blocked the signal, the other teams unknowingly connected to Haru's router instead. Both routers had the same name, so the other teams didn't notice. Then, Manabu used this chance to hack into the other team's passwords and names. He began attacking them one by one. In no time, Manabu climbed to the top of the points leaderboard and won the match. At the same time, Kiriko is there and feels happy seeing them win. But soon after, the management announces that Haru cheated by using the silicon strip to mess with the signal, so they are disqualified and can't get the prize money. As they are about to leave, a man from the audience, Mr. Kitoin, approaches them. Kitoin is really impressed with Haru and Manabu, so he offers them 30 million yen to invest in their new company. He takes them to a pub to make the deal and warns them to use the money wisely, or they'll owe him forever. Kitoin also wants their company to make 300 million yen in just 3 months. At that time, Haru and Manabu are thrilled to get the investment for their company. They immediately start recruiting people for their team. They put out ads for job interviews, and many people come to apply. Since they had never done interviews before, they used a book for ideas and asked a question to test the applicants. The question was, how would you sell a product for 1,000 yen when your competitor is selling the same product for 500 yen? Some applicants answered by saying they would buy the competitor's product for 500 yen, then sell both for 1,000 yen. But Rinrin didn't answer the question at all. She explained that she had read the same book and thought it wouldn't be honest to give the answer from the book. Upon hearing that, Haru and Manabu liked her honesty and attitude, so they decided to hire her. Manabu starts to feel a strong connection with Rinrin. The next day, Rinrin comes to their apartment to start working on the company, but Manabu and Haru don't have any real plans yet. They don't even know where to start. So, Rinrin uses what she learned from all the books she's read to come up with some ideas. They eventually decide to create an AI that helps people with questions about giving gifts to others. But building a real AI requires a lot of money and people, which they don't have. So, they decide to create a fake AI, with Rinrin working behind the scenes to answer people's questions. Soon after, they launch an app for their AI, and Rinrin is in charge of answering all the questions. She either searches online or gives advice based on what she already knows. They also make Rinrin the president of the company because they think having a young woman as president will make the company look better to the public. Their idea becomes a success. Rinrin works hard to answer everyone's questions, and at the end of the month, they check how much money the company has made. They're growing steadily, but they still need a bit more to hit their goal. So, they sit down again to improve their AI idea. When they look at the data, they realize most people are asking questions about love and romance. Many people don't feel comfortable asking others about these things. So, they focus the AI on answering questions about giving flowers as gifts. Since Rinrin used to work at a flower shop, her advice quickly becomes popular. Within a month, their app gets tons of visits, and by the end of the month, they've made 300 million yen in revenue. At that time, they were really happy with their success and showed the earnings to Mr. Kitoin. He was pleased because his investment had paid off. Then, Kitoin introduced them to Mitsuzono, the owner of a flower company. There, Mitsuzono decided to invest in Trillion Game and allowed them to sell her flowers through their online platform. However, she set a very high monthly income target. Haru accepted the challenge, but the founders of Trillion Game were now worried about how to hit such a big number, as their current market wasn't large enough for that kind of sale. They realized they needed to attract the nightclub market, where people spend a lot of money on entertainment. Soon after, Haru and Manabu decided to go to a nightclub to promote their AI, Taira. Haru used his charm and great persuasion skills to catch the attention of the women there. He quickly became a popular host of the nightclub, talking to many people and promoting their AI. Meanwhile, Manabu met a woman who was a customer of another host. She was rude to him, and soon after, the other host and his friends took Manabu to a dark alley and started beating him up. But just in time, Haru arrived to save his friend. After that, another host asked Haru why she was working at the nightclub. Haru explained that his goal was to sell flowers to the customers there. To help with this, Manabu created 3D models of their flowers to make them look more attractive on their app. They also made the app easier for people to use. Then, they started a trend of celebrating birthdays with flowers, based on recommendations from their AI, Taira. Thanks to their hard work, they managed to attract the nightclub market, and their sales took off. At the end of the month, when they checked their stats, they had met Mitsuzono's monthly target. They were thrilled, and Mitsuzono was happy too, seeing how much Trillion Game had grown. She agreed to work with them more in the future. However, the next day, they found out that Dragon Bank had launched a similar app that also gave flower gift recommendations. With a huge budget and powerful media control, Dragon Bank's ads spread quickly across the country, making their app go viral in just one day. Turns out, Dragon Bank had copied everything from Taira and advertised it so heavily that people forgot about Taira. Because of this, Trillion Games app quickly lost popularity, and their income dropped a lot. It turned out that all of this was planned by Kazuma Kakuryu, Kurika's father. As the president of Dragon Bank, Kakuryu wouldn't allow any new business to grow to compete with his company. He always crushed new businesses to keep a monopoly, just like he did with Trillion Game. This time, Manabu, Haru, and Rinrin are feeling worried about their company's future. They don't have enough money to keep it running, and their savings are quickly running out. The next day, Haru comes up with a new plan. He wants to enter the social game market. Haru shares his idea with Manabu and Rinrin, and after seeing the plan, they both agree. The next step is finding a company to help them make the game. Rinrin makes a list of possible companies, and Manabu and Haru visit them one by one. Unfortunately, all the companies turn them down. Finally, they find a small company that is struggling. This company, run by a man named Sakura, operates from an apartment and doesn't even have enough money to pay rent next month. But there, Haru manages to convince Sakura to work with them on a game that would inspire many people. He even pretends that their company has a big office and a large budget for the project. Sakura agrees and moves all his stuff to Trillion Game. Meanwhile, Haru tells his team that he's rented a big building for their new office. When the team arrives, they're shocked to see the huge new office. Haru had spent a lot of money on the rent, which worries Manabu and Rinrin because the rent is extremely high. Despite this, Haru is confident they can handle the challenge. He then shows the team the roadmap for their game project. Haru wants to finish the game in just 6 months, even though it's really hard to make a good game in such a short time. His idea is to take an old game that was popular when they were kids but didn't make much money and improve it to turn it into a financial success. After that, they held a meeting with investors and announced that a famous producer, who had created the top game in the country, would be joining Trillion Game to develop their new game. This news grabbed everyone's attention, and the person was Mr. Hebashima, who had made a game that became super successful and is still one of the best in the gaming world. Turns out, Hebashima had worked for Dragon Bank before, but now he was supposedly going to make another hit game with Trillion Game. Mitsuzono was also there and ready to invest in their project. Seeing her interest, other investors decided to join in too. And Sakura, the president of the game division, was thrilled and excited about having Hebashima on board. He had always dreamed of working with him. But it turned out that Mr. Hebashima was actually a fake producer hired by Haru. The real top game producer's identity was a secret to everyone. Haru did this to create excitement and attract big investments, and it worked. They were able to raise about 2 billion yen from investors. Then, Haru revealed that he didn't plan to use the money to make a game. Instead, he wanted to build his own media empire. Soon after, Haru asked Manabu to make a fake game just to show the investors. Haru's true goal was to compete with Dragon Bank, which had its own media empire, allowing them to easily promote their projects. Haru wanted the same for Trillion Game, but by doing this, he ended up hurting the feelings of everyone, especially Manabu, Rinrin, and the game team. Shortly after, Haru tells Manabu everything and asks him to keep it a secret for a while. After that, Haru goes to meet Kitoin and explains his plan to buy a media company, since Kitoin used to work in the media business. However, Kitoin is unsure if he wants to partner with Haru, so he asks for some time to think it over. Meanwhile, Rinrin shows Manabu that Haru has withdrawn 2 billion yen from their account, money that was supposed to be used to make the game. Rinrin is very angry at Haru and wants to confront him, but Manabu stops her. Manabu doesn't want them to fight, and he promises that he will take care of everything to make sure the game gets developed. Then, Manabu decides to tell the whole truth to their game team. When everyone looks disappointed by the bad news, Manabu says that he has a friend at Dragon Bank who knows the real #1 game producer in the country. He promises to contact his friend to help Trillion Game recruit this producer for their game. Suddenly, Sakura becomes emotional, seeing how Manabu is willing to stand up to his friend's plan for the sake of creating the game. He praises Manabu's bravery and noble actions. Meanwhile, Haru is working with Kitoin to take over a media company called God Promotion. Kitoin used to be an executive there, but he was unfairly blamed for a traffic accident he didn't cause. The real culprit was a young actor from the company, but the company didn't want to lose the actor, so they put all the blame on Kitoin and fired him. Haru plans to blackmail the company by revealing the truth about the accident. He wants the company to make Kitoin their president and restore the company's image in the public eye. At the same time, Manabu tries to hack into Dragon Bank system to find out who the real producer of the country's top game is. But just as he's about to open the folder with the information, he hesitates. Manabu realizes that what he's doing is wrong, and he decides to stop. The next morning, Kurika's team reports that their system was hacked the previous night, but no data was stolen. In fact, the hacker even improved their security by fixing all the system's weaknesses. Kurika immediately suspects that Manabu was behind it, since he's the only person she knows who could do something like that. She contacts Manabu and asks him to meet, making it sound like a date, probably because she wants to thank him. Soon after, they meet at an amusement park the next day and have fun together, enjoying the rides from morning until night. They spend the whole day enjoying each other's company. In the evening, Kurika tells Manabu that their system was hacked, and she knows he's the one who did it. Manabu was the only person who knew about the system's flaws, but instead of taking anything, he showed his integrity by fixing their security. At that time, Kurika is really impressed with his actions and asks why he hacked their system. Manabu honestly tells her that he wanted to find out the identity of the producer who made the #1 game in the country. Touched by his honesty, Kurika gives Manabu a drive with the information he was looking for. Manabu is thrilled to finally get the details he needed. Now, Manabu and Rinrin go to meet the real Hebashima and ask him to join their company. But Hebashima demands 185 million yen to work with them, which is way too much for a small startup like Trillion Game. Manabu and Rinrin feel stressed and are about to leave without making a deal. Just then, Haru shows up. Haru suggests a new idea to Hebashima that instead of working full-time, Hebashima can be an external advisor for a few days, and they'll pay him based on how many days he works. Hebashima agrees, and this way, Trillion Game only has to pay him a smaller amount. After that, Haru tells Manabu that he's really impressed by how Manabu got the information about Dragon Bank's top game producer. As a friend, and because he knows how much Manabu cares about making the game, Haru promises to help. He plans to handle 2 tasks at the same time, which was acquiring a media company and developing the game. The next day, Haru and Mr. Kitoin meet with several investors and convince them to sell their shares in God Promotion Company. They use the threat that the company's stock price will fall if the truth about the accident gets out. Turns out the scare tactic works, and they manage to buy most of the shares. They use the investment funds, which were originally meant for the game, to make this deal happen. On the other hand, Hebashima and Sakura are working on the game, but they have very different ideas. Hebashima wants to make the game as profitable as possible, while Sakura focuses on making the game fun first, then thinking about profit. Haru understands that both of their ideas are important and asks them to find a way to work together. Both fun and profit are needed for the project to succeed. So, the whole team starts working hard to finish the game. At Dragon Bank, Kikuria finds out that Kurika has been sharing information about the game producers with Trillion Game. Kurika tells her father that he won't be able to stop Haru and Manabu and suggests that he let her handle it. Meanwhile, The game is launched and quickly becomes a huge hit. In just a few days, it becomes the most popular game in the country because everyone enjoys playing it. Seeing this success, Kikuria contacts Hebashima and threatens him, telling him to leave Trillion Game or he will ruin both Hebashima and the company. Afraid of Kikuria's power, Hebashima decides to leave Trillion Game and returns to Dragon Bank, where a big event is being held to announce a new game he is producing. However, Manabu and Haru go to the event to meet Hebashima. They try to convince him to come back to Trillion Game, saying that only with them can Hebashima work with his heart fully in it. But Hebashima doesn't respond positively and still chooses to go to the event. On stage, Kikuria announced to everyone the true identity of the producer behind the #1 game in the country. He also said that Hebashima would be making another game for Dragon Bank. But when it was Hebashima's turn to speak, he shocked everyone. Soon after, Hebashima announced that he was resigning from Dragon Bank, right there on stage, and said he would be joining Trillion Game. He explained that he believed the Trillion Game team could create the best games, not just profitable ones, but fun ones too. By saying this in public, Hebashima also protected himself from Kikuria's threats. At that time, Manabu, Haru, and the rest of the Trillion Game team, including Sakura, were overjoyed by this news, while Kikuria left disappointed. Meanwhile, Haru and Mr. Kitoen now had enough support to make Kitoen the president of God Promotion. They met with different executive members and made deals with them. After successfully taking over the God Promotion media company, Trillion Game started advertising their game on all of God Promotion's media platforms. They even used actors from their media company to help promote the game. This gave the game a huge boost, making it extremely popular, and soon, it was breaking profit records. Within just a few days, everyone in the country knew about the game because of the massive publicity. The game quickly became the #1 game in the country. The whole Trillion Game team celebrated their success together. Now, Haru plans to create Trillion TV. To do this, he buys a small weather channel and starts building her own TV station from there. Haru adds different shows and hires people to work on his TV programs. Her goal is to take over the entire TV market because this will attract big sponsors and lots of money. However, Dragon Bank tries to stop her success. Karika teams up with a popular international streaming channel to expand her TV reach. She also works with TV manufacturers to add a special button on TV remotes that links directly to her channel. This makes Haru worried about the future of Trillion TV, and she realizes she must find a way to beat her competitors. Shortly after, Kitoen suggests adding a news channel, since many people watch the news. This would help Trillion TV grow a lot. So, Haru meets with a news producer named Tennoji to offer him a job as the producer of Trillion TV's news department. At first, Tennoji isn't interested, but Haru knows that Tennoji feels limited at his current job because the channel owner doesn't let him report all the news freely. Tennoji wants journalistic freedom, which he can't get in his current position. Haru uses this to her advantage and promises Tennoji total freedom to report the real news. She also talks about Manabu, bragging that he's the best software engineer in the world who can help build the news channel. Eventually, Tennoji agrees to join Trillion TV and starts building his news department. A few days later, Trillion TV covered a live broadcast of a dramatic event where an escaped convict took several civilians hostage. Trillion TV was the only channel with exclusive footage, and it quickly went viral across the country. Their viewership skyrocketed, and many sponsors came forward. The whole team was thrilled with this success, and they celebrated their big achievement. Seeing this, Dragon Bank made its move. Karika gathered all the major news channels and held a huge press conference. She announced that their TV would offer 3 years of free subscription to everyone in the country. This bold move shocked the public, as it showed Dragon Bank was willing to take a financial hit just to compete with Trillion Game. After this, Dragon Bank's TV went viral. Haru quickly responded by coming up with an idea to air exclusive content on Trillion TV. She planned to create an anime in collaboration with an anime production company, hoping to attract a big audience. So, the founders of Trillion Game visited the anime production company. In Usami, the artist behind the anime, was very popular, especially in the anime community, and her shows had gone viral before. However, Dragon Bank had already struck a deal. They had made an agreement with Usami's manager to air her upcoming anime on Dragon Bank's TV channel instead. Hearing about the deal with Usami's anime, Haru decides to meet with Kurika to try and convince her to give him the rights to broadcast the anime. However, Kurika, always thinking like a businessperson, agrees, but with one condition. She says she will give Haru the anime rights only if he becomes her pet, and Haru, who values his independence, immediately rejects the offer. Meanwhile, Kikuria meets with Kitoin, who is now the president of God Promotion and handles all the media services for Trillion Game. Kikuryu offers Kitoin a deal. If Kitoin leaves Trillion Game, Dragon Bank will give all their media work to God Promotion. Kitoin knows that working with Dragon Bank could bring him a much bigger business opportunity, but he discusses the offer with Haru. There, Haru advises Kitoin to do what is best for his company. In the end, Kitoin decides to reject Dragon Bank's offer. He chooses to stay with Trillion Game because he has already made a lot of profit from his initial investment of 30 million yen in Haru and Manabu, and he believes these two young men can achieve even greater things in the future. Soon after, Haru returns to the anime company and tries to convince the manager to work with him, but the manager is hesitant because they already made a deal with Dragon Bank. Haru then uses an emotional approach, telling the manager that he wants to make an anime about Usami's life. This anime was written about the manager's life 10 years ago, but was never published due to the heavy workload. Now, Haru wants to bring this anime to life and air it on his TV channel. This emotional appeal convinces the manager. Next, Haru needs to convince Usami, the designer and main artist of the anime. He knows that Usami loves recognition and dreams of working with international anime artists. There, he highlights all these points, including the fact that the anime is based on Usami's life and how she has been his best friend since childhood, supporting him in his business. With this approach, Haru convinces Usami to work with them. At the ceremony announcing the collaboration between the two companies, Manabu presents their newest AI model, which can create anime faster and more efficiently. Thanks to this AI, they can finish the anime in 6 months instead of 2 years. During the Kande session, Haru also announces that they will help pay off Usami's company's debts from the anime production and will air all of Usami's previous anime on Trillion TV. This is a major boost for Trillion TV, which Haru had just launched. On the other hand, Kurika, who is also at the event, is furious after hearing these announcements and storms out in anger. Seeing Trillion Game's success, Kikuria calls Kurika and points out that Trillion has copied their idea by adding a special button on TV remotes for their channel. When Kurika fails to beat Trillion, Kikuria decides to buy the entire company. He arranges a meeting with Manabu, Haru, and Kitoin, offering them 70 billion yen to buy Trillion Game, which would then become a part of Dragon Bank. Kikuria also proposes that Haru marry Kurika, making Haru part of their family and helping to run Dragon Bank. However, Haru rejects all of Kikuria's offers, saying that he's already married and doesn't want to sell the company. The next day, Kikuria removes Kurika from her position at Dragon Bank and transfers her to work in a supermarket chain. Meanwhile, Haru has a new plan to enter the cashless payment industry. Haru wants to create a secure payment system that works with just a mobile app and a QR code, allowing people to make payments easily. Even though this market is already very competitive, Haru offers to waive all transaction fees for 3 years, which makes both store owners and customers happy. Many stores start using Trillion Game's QR code system, and it shows great potential. Now, Haru's goal is to expand the service across the whole country. He also wants to include payments for trains and metro buses through the app. To make this happen, Haru meets with the owners of Pasca, a debit card company for railways. He offers them the idea of using his app for payments instead of cards, explaining that this would save on the cost of producing physical cards for customers. At that time, the owner of the railway company asks Haru to meet with the head of the railway system to discuss changes in their payment system. When Haru arrives, he finds that Kuriko is already there, promoting her cashless card system. However, the railway head rejects both their offers, saying that the railway is not a place for companies like theirs to make money. Seeing this, Haru contacts Kurika and asks her to meet. Haru proposes that they work together. Dragon Bank cards are already used in supermarket chains, and the Trillion Game app is popular with merchants. If they join forces, they can convince the railway to adopt their QR code payment system. This strategy works, and they successfully persuade the railway's executive board to use their system. However, Kakuryu becomes furious when he finds out that his daughter, Karika, is working with his competition. Feeling betrayed, Kakuryu plans to destroy Trillion Game. The next day, the founders of Trillion Game see on the news that Pasca is now partnering with a new company called Sway, which is backed by Dragon Bank. Overnight, Kakuryu uses his influence to turn the railway board against Trillion Game, rejecting their QR code system. In the middle of this chaos, Manabu gets a call from Kanugi, telling him that their servers have crashed. When Manabu checks the server, he discovers that it has been hacked and all their data has been stolen. Manabu realizes that the security system was breached for the past 5 or 6 days, and the data was being taken slowly. It seems that the hacker was someone inside the company. Manabu immediately calls Haru to tell him about the situation. At that moment, Haru is sitting with Kakuryu, who is smiling with pride. There, Kakuryu admits that he is the one behind the hack. He says he did it because his offer to buy the company was rejected, and he couldn't stand seeing anyone rise to his level. And Rinrin, as the president of Trillion Game, takes responsibility for the data leak. The personal data of millions of their game users was stolen, and someone needed to step up and face the consequences. Soon after, Rinrin holds a press conference and announces her resignation as president. She feels very emotional because she had watched the company grow from a small apartment startup into a billion-dollar business. On the other hand, Kakuryu offers Haru and Manabu 70 billion yen again, asking them to sell their company. This time, Haru agrees to the offer and sells all his shares in Trillion Game. Manabu tries to convince Haru to change his mind, but Haru stands firm, saying that it's the right time to close the company and that 70 billion yen is a huge amount of money. Even so, Manabu doesn't agree and decides to keep his shares in the company. Kitoin also sells his shares and goes traveling around the world with the money. Now, Trillion Game becomes a part of Dragon Bank. Their operations have been shut down, taking away their freedom to be creative. The game team is only allowed to fix bugs in old games, and the news department is under strict control. Meanwhile, Manabu feels sad as he stands on the roof of the building, thinking about how far the company had come. He can't believe Haru would leave him like that. But then, Haru shows up. He explains to Manabu that this was all part of his plan. Haru intends to destroy Dragon Bank from the inside, just like they did to Trillion Game. He believes it's the only way their company can survive. Haru also tells Manabu that as long as Manabu still owns shares in Trillion Game, no one can take the company away from them. Finally, Haru gives Manabu the key to Kakuryu's office, showing that the plan is still in motion. The next day, Manabu sneaks into the office disguised as a janitor. While inside, he hacks into the entire system and copies all the data. He turns off the cameras and erases the footage as he works. However, Kakuryu finds out what happened through a hidden camera inside a horse statue in his office. Now, Kakuryu has proof that Manabu and Haru were behind the hack and plans to use it against them to make them suffer. But Haru refuses to give up. He boldly tells Kakuryu that this isn't the end for them, but rather the end of Kakuryu's empire. At that time, Haru demands that Kakuryu sell his shares, and in return, Haru will elect a new president to replace him. Meanwhile, Kitoin, who is traveling abroad, lines up investors interested in buying the shares. Haru also has a video recording from Kakuryu's laptop camera, and it was a footage that Manabu secretly captured during the hack. The video shows how Kakuryu manipulates the news channels to keep negative stories about his company from being reported. It also shows how Kakuryu ordered his team to destroy Trillion Game. If Haru releases this video to the media and the public, Dragon Bank's reputation will be ruined, and their stock prices will drop. Haru also manages to convince Karika to sell her shares. With her shares combined, they now control 50% of the company, giving them enough power to elect a new president and replace Kakuryu. Soon after, Haru announces that the new president of Dragon Bank will be Manabu. Haru cannot take the position himself because he was involved in insider trading when he sold Dragon Bank shares, which is illegal. From this point on, Dragon Bank becomes a subsidiary of Trillion Game, and the departments of both companies are merged to work more efficiently. Haru and Manabu also bring Rinrin back to their team. Kurika joins them too, working as the president of Dragon Bank under Trillion Game. After setting everything up, Haru disappears and goes undercover for several months. A year later, Manabu tries to buy a drink from a vending machine, but his money slips out of his hand again. Just like before, Haru suddenly appears, jumping in the air to catch the money. Haru then takes Manabu into his Lamborghini and drives him to the harbor. Haru reveals his new plan to expand their business globally, aiming to reach $1 trillion. They both laugh, calling themselves the most selfish people in the world. The series ends. The moral lesson from this series is always keep your money safe at the vending machine, because you never know when a friend will jump out of nowhere in a Lamborghini.